I mean, it's freezing cold today, and I'm here at Lawn Farm Fishery. I'm fishing today for skimmers. I've already had 2 or 3 fish, only small ones, but this is probably the best fish so far. Nice skimmer. Didn't really expect to catch this quick. I cupped in 3 balls of ground bait with a few dead pinkies at 13 metres, well just under 13 metres. And then I'm fishing on the bottom with double pinky. There, and that's exactly the sort of fish I'm after today. A beautiful skimmer, probably about 12 ounces. Perfect condition, just look at that. Just a lovely looking fish. Tiny hook, size 20 hook with 2 fluorescent pinkies. Pinky in the winter's the best bait. It's the softest bait that you can get in the maggot world, a pinky. There. Lovely fish. Slip that in the net. But a great start. Straight back and I'm into another fish. The secret at the moment for me is fishing just a little bit past where I've fed, not much, just a tiny bit. Probably, I've got another fish on, probably about that far past where I put my bait in. Now this fish, I've got a lift bite already. This time of day I could see, I've got that nearest dropper shot fairly close. And it is typical with skimmers in the summer you get lift bites, but I wouldn't have expected it today. Not as big as the last one, but still a lovely fish. I'm guessing the temperature this morning was about 0. But I find skimmers are like that sometimes. They will feed. There. Another beautiful fish. Sometimes they surprise you, even when it's cold, they just suddenly feed quite well. But a fantastic start already. A few fish in the net. And I expect it to get better as the day goes on. Perhaps a few bigger skimmers, some roach. I've fed 2 lines. I've fed a line at 8 metres, just at the bottom of the drop off, but it's still deep there for some roach. I put 2 balls of ground bait in there. And then the further line where I'm catching at the moment is my skimmer line. That's at 13 metres. And all I've put is ground bait. And the ground bait I'm using today, for the skimmers, I've done what they call a sweet fish meal mix. So about 25% of the ground bait is fish meal. What I did was ground up some fish meal pellets, put it through a sieve, and then I've mixed that with some Gold Pro Bream ground bait. So that's the sweeter side. So about 25% fish meal mix for the skimmers, and the roach, I've done a liquidised hemp roach mix. And I'm just loose feeding a few casters on that close in line for the roach as well, on the 8 metre line. 2 pinkies, as I said, double pink is the best bait. It's the softest bait. And I'm going just past. Let me show you where. I've got a marker. I've got my new Silverlight Plus pole today, brand new. I've used it just once before, but this is getting a real christening today. And there's a mark here. Now that's where I cupped in. That's where I cupped in my ground bait. That's a location point there. But I'm fishing at full length of the pole, so I'm going probably about 10 or 12 inches past. just past the ground bait. I think the fish will come right on the bait later, but I'm just using the marker on the pole, going past. Only 3 balls, and I didn't put a lot of bait in, just a few pinkies in, not too many. And I'm fishing just over depth, probably I should think about 2 or 3 centimetres over depth. When you're fishing for skimmers, you really want to be just a little bit over depth. The bigger ones particularly will be feeding on the bottom. So just over depth, and I'm fishing just past. And sometimes you can keep your bait still, and other times you can just move it a little bit. I can just lift slightly, drop it back, just looking for that bait to go. I'm just going to come back onto this, right onto my feed now, see if the fish have come onto it. I've picked a marker. I've got an island opposite me, and I've picked a marker so I know exactly where I'm cupping the ground bait in, and that's where I'm putting my bait. When you're fishing in the winter, cold weather, try and keep everything really tight. The more accurate that you can fish, so right on your feed, just off it, and know exactly where it is, then the more fish you will catch. I've got that float set right down. Skimmers hardly move the bait at times. And you need to set that, you need to see your float, of course, but you need to set that down so you can just see any little movement and you can lift into it. Didn't really expect to be catching this many fish that quickly. In the summer, say you were here, as I say, this is lawn farm fishery. Day tickets are £7, so it's quite good, a beautiful place to fish. This lake is called Willow Lake. Probably one of the best skimmer lakes there are. They have a lot of matches here as well. And regularly in the summer you can catch 50 and 60 pound weights of skimmers, so you can tell it's a brilliant fishery. But today, 0 degrees, just gone above that now. You wouldn't expect to be catching as quick as I was. Well, I wouldn't anyway. Strange, quite often fish can be just off of where you've fed, and you have to just work it a little bit to see where they are. And then I'm into a skimmer. Funny, I came on my feed, didn't catch. As soon as I went just that, and it's not far past, then I'm into another fish. Got a nice soft elastic in today. Just a hollow. When you're on a small, you have to use barbless on most commercial fisheries. So I've just got a very small hook and very, very soft elastic, just a number 4 solid elastic. Skimmers won't fight this time of the year, so a barbless small hook, you want really soft elastic. Just enables you to land the fish without any problem. Another lovely skimmer. I think I'm in for a good day. Oh, beautiful fish. These are just the fish that I'm after today. There. What a beautiful fish. Perfect. That's another one about 10 or 12 ounces. Just ideal match fish. It's just skimmer heaven at the moment. I'm going out just past that feed area and the fish are there, but the bites are virtually no bites at all, hardly anything. I just had that fish and I'm out again, and this one went straight away, so How can they be feeding? I can't make out how they're feeding so well when it's freezing cold. This is just a small one, but it's a skimmer. And if you're in a match here, this is what you're after. Exactly what you're after. Just small. That is a little one. It's only about 4 ounces, but just perfectly hooked, that one. Yeah. Just on those 3 balls of ground bait, and already the fish are really coming well. I'm catching really well, but time to cup in 1 more ball of ground bait. When you come fishing like this, you can never really tell how you've got to feed, when you've got to feed, so you really have to, it's mainly experience. Getting lots of bites, but I want to make sure that I keep the fish there. So I'm going to cup in 1 more ball of this sweet fish meal ground bait. Just a few dead pinkies, that's all. So that they don't move, just a few dead pinkies. Reasonable sized ball. So I've got my marker on the far bank, so I know I'm going in the same place every time. Shipping out, taking care when you ship out that the ball doesn't drop out. And your pole cup wants to be exactly the same length as your rig, so that you know. I've got my marker on the pole here. I'm not going to the full length of the pole, just a little bit short, just to give me a chance to go past. And I've had every fish pass the feed so far today. Just dropping that 1 ball in there, nice and precise, exactly where those earlier 3 balls went. Just one is usually enough, and then you try to get an idea. It's all about how many bites you're getting. I'm getting loads of bites, lots of fish. I can feed again. You've got to keep them there, otherwise the bait will, even on these cold days, the bait can go. And then I can go out there again. Once again, I'm going to go past the feed, and then eventually I know at the end of the day they will be on the feed. But at the moment, for some reason, they're just past the feed. Fishing's going really well. I mean, it's almost a fish every put in. I'll net this one, and then we'll run through the rig that I'm using today to catch the skimmers. Got that lovely number 4 elastic, really light. Even these skimmers, even when it's cold, they're still fighting quite well. Light elastic also helps you when you're netting the fish. Up in the water a little bit here, so the elastic is coming out and keeping the fish nicely on the surface for me to slip the net under it. So they're the fish that we've come for today, these lovely skimmers. Just hooked. And I'm still catching everyone just past that feed area. Look at that, perfect. Gorgeous. Proper, this is a match angler's fish really. Okay, let's have a look at the rig I'm using. So the hook, just a tiny size 20 size 20 barbless hook. There's about a 20 centimetre hook length to my first shot, and I've got three number 10 shots plus an Olivet, so that's a number 10 shot there. A little bit of skimmer slime on it as well. I've got a little tiny knot that I use. It's a 3-turn surgeon's knot, and I've got my shot is just against that, and I'm fishing about probably that much over depth, 2.5, perhaps 3 centimetres over depth. And you can see I've got 3 shots here, spaced here, these three number 10s. The hook length's 0.10, and then the main line's 0.14. That's a Browning line, great line. And there's the Olivet there. And that Olivet, there's a piece of silicone through the middle, and then I've plugged it with carbon so I can move it. If I want, I can just move that Olivet so easily, but it won't move when I'm catching fish. But if I get hold of that, I can move it up and down the line. But when you're catching fish, it stays still. You don't want the Olivet bumping about. And then up to the float, I'll show you a little trick that I've got here on my float. So there's my float there. It's a 1.25 grams DT, that's Dean Townsend Nevis float. It's just a local UK float maker. There's loads of them and they make brilliant floats. The body of the float is compressed polystyrene, high density polystyrene, and then a carbon stem and a nylon bristle. And this is my little secret. And today I'm looking out onto sort of light white water. So I've put a piece of silicone, black silicone, over the float. If the light changes, I can take that silicone off there, like that, so that then I've got an orange bristle. But at the moment, this piece of black silicone over the top just gives it's a slightly thicker. I'm fishing at 13 metres, so the diameter then is a little bit more on the bristle, but it's black, so it shows up well against a light background, and I've got that shotted right down, so it's necessary to see that. And then up to the, let's just go up, I've got a tiny connector there, just a small tiny connector, number 4 solid elastic, and a small loop. So that's the rig, just a little bit over depth, 0.10 bottom, 14 main line, an Olivet and 3 number 10 droppers, and the nearest dropper is about 20 centimetres, so about like that. Enough so that I can see the lift bites, and enough so it's just far enough away to be sensitive so I can see the bite but the fish won't feel the weight. I'm using a double roller setup today. The sphere rollers that I'm using have got legs that I can actually take off, so I can use a much lower roller if I need to, which is handy here. I'm in a lower spot here, the bank's a little bit high behind me, but I can take the legs off of that roller and it still keeps the pole just almost parallel with me. And then I've got the rig here. I don't have to put it in my cup here, so I can slide this backwards and forwards, land the fish easily, and then just swing it in when I'm finished. So I'm just using the double roller setup. Just enables me to really be smooth when I'm shipping in and out. So when I go to ship out, the pole roller is sitting there itself. I can just ship on, just at a nice height. The two rollers are fairly parallel, but then I can just whiz out, lovely and smooth. Let it slide through almost to the end. The pole is in rollers all the time. And then I can just flick out, still going just past my feed, dropping it in exactly in line with where I've fed, but just past that feed area. And the fish are coming quite well, so I'm going to keep topping up today, keep topping up with a ball. Even though I'm fishing off the bait, I'm going to keep putting bait in, just to make sure that fish keep in the area. And the bites from skimmers are hardly anything. They really are The most sensitive feeders of all, small bream. Sometimes hardly move with the bait. That one just didn't. There was nothing really, nothing to look at. And I'm just coming back onto this double roller. Get the pole on that front roller first, and then you can just go back. You don't really need to look then. I've got my widest roller right at the back, so it gives me plenty of room, freedom. But once that's on that front roller, then don't look, just come back. You can just unship your poles there, and then you're ready. That nice light elastic, you're ready then to net the fish. Well, the fish really are fighting, considering how cold it is, fighting quite hard. This one looks like one of those, yeah, we call these hybrids. If you look at it, it's a cross between a roach and a bream. Just hooked. Let me just unhook it first, then just show it. Looks a little bit roachy, doesn't it? But it's not. It hasn't got the colours of a roach. So that's a hybrid, and they fight. That will fight harder than a roach, and definitely harder than a bream. Hardest fighters of all. I'll catch some big ones of these in Ireland. Love, if you can catch these hybrids, like £2, beautiful fish to catch. There, a hybrid. This is how I like to set up. I like to have a bait tray on my left, fairly high up as I can with my bait on, catapult on there, and the landing net also on my left hand side between my bait tray, so I can pick it up with my left hand to net the fish. I've also got my rigs here, just right almost where I need them, where I can just pick them up, just drop behind me, so they're not in the way, but they're dropped into the actual roost, the actual pole roost there, so that they won't come out. I'm feeding on that far line. I'm feeding some dead pinkies, or pinkies that don't move. They're not actually dead, but I bag them up, put them in a bag and seal them, leave them in the fridge for 3 or 4 days, and then as soon as I get to the bank, I put them in water. So they're in water now. Once they're in water, there's no oxygen can get to them, then they will stay dormant like that, so they'll lay on the bottom. Bream love that. I've done a few worms, but I haven't used any of those on the hook yet. Some casters ready. I'm gonna have a little, I haven't been on caster yet, I'm gonna have a go with caster, and then I've got live pinkies. That's what I'm using on the hook at the moment, some live pinkies. But it's so cold, they're hardly moving. It's almost like they're in the fridge at about 2 degrees. That's exactly how much they're moving. So that's the bait tray there. So I've got all my bait. So I'm baiting up everything, because I bait up with my left hand, is there. And then my right hand side, I have my ground bait for the cupping in, so that I can then go over, and I have the right hand tray I have fairly low, because on this box my drawers pull out on the right hand side. So if that tray is low, I can still pull out my side drawers here with all my bits and pieces in. I can just pull them out and push them back, doesn't get in the way. And then I've got my two separate ground bait bowls there. I've got the front one, I've got the fish meal mix, and the back one I've got the roach mix. And my towel just whizzes around with me everywhere. Now when I'm using a double roller and fishing long, you don't need to use your pole sock, because your roller just stays there. It doesn't need to slot in. Look, it's there, just ready, right. I've got it exactly where my hand would be. And then I've got a pole sock there for when I go on a shorter line to actually insert the pole once you've unshipped. Really, you really want everything to hand, and that's what I've got. If I'm fishing for 5 hours, I don't have to move. Everything is here where I want it. a match angler has to be like an efficient machine. That's it. I mean, it's a bit cruel really. You just have to be so efficient and have all your movements, and don't be moving too far. Keep nets dead in front of you to drop your fish in. Everything has to be to hand. You don't want to be searching around. Still going really well. Catching a lot of these skimmers. And quite a few little lift bites where they're just that bottom shot that I've got, which is like a number 10 shot, that one that I showed you earlier. That's just, sometimes they're just lifting it, and that's all it is. Just a little bit of a lift, as if they've picked the bait off the bottom. These are nice, just nice size skimmers. And really it's fish after fish, but still, even though I've been cupping in an extra ball, the fish are still just past that. Another lovely skimmer. Beautiful fish. The fish are just past that, past my feed. That little tip of that distance, that's all it is. Just past that. That is a beauty. Lovely skimmers. Match anglers, I'd give it a Rex Hunt. A match angler's fish, that one. So skimmer after skimmer on that line. I've been cupping in on that shorter line, so I think it's time to just have a look. And I've been loose feeding a few casters over that shorter line, looking for that. I've had one or two better roach, but not on that close line. So let's have a look on another rig and see if we can catch some better roach. I've just switched to this shorter line. Been feeding there all the time. It's always good to have two lines anyway when you're fishing, because you can feed one and fish on another. So I've just switched to this, and it's the same depth. It's just 8 meters out, and it's right at the bottom of the shelf where you get the crease. So it's the slope from the bank has gone down, and then it's. And I've been loose feeding just a few casters over the top as well. It's a roach. Roach and skimmers, that's what we're after. This is a lovely little roach, this one. Sometimes if you come in, there, beautiful little fish. If you come in on a closer line, if the fish are there, you can catch them a little bit quicker. Beautiful roach. So that's. And I'm fishing, where I'm fishing is about 3 meters deep, and it's always a good idea in winter, if you're fishing slightly deeper water, the temperature seems to be a little bit more level, a little bit more even, or it doesn't fluctuate as much. Sometimes really shallow water in the winter, you can't get bites at all. Just perhaps it's because the temperature's a little bit more stable. I'm still fishing with 2 pinkies. I've changed my rig a bit. On this shorter line, I've got a 1 gram float, so slightly smaller float, but same hook. I've put the same hook on, same bait as well, 2 pinkies. Just a size 20 barbless. So the only difference, and I'm still fishing just slightly over depth. But the only difference really is the size of the float. And the fact I'm fishing 8 meters now instead of 13, but still I'm fishing there, where I'm fishing now, is on that natural crease line. So the bank has sloped down, then it's where it's just gone level, and I can just loose feed a few casters just over the top. And when you're loose feeding with a catapult, I've trapped the pole here with my arm. I've got hold of the pouch, and you can just, if you push the catapult forward, so instead of pulling this pouch back, you just push the catapult forward, you can feed accurately. And I'm right on top of where I've cupped that ground bait in there. Just cupped another 2 balls in on that line with a few just a few pinkies. That's all I'm feeding, just over depth. And that little, I've got that little piece of black silicone over the float again, so I've got a black, I'm looking at a black top on light water. It's always that float lifted then, so you can see there's fish there. I knew it wasn't a bite, but the float just came up and dropped back down again. I think it was just a fish near the shot probably. But if I can catch the fish there, I'll be able to catch them quicker. But I've also fed out again, so that further line is getting a bit of a rest. Now I can switch between the two. Hopefully, I mean, it's freezing cold, so you don't always expect it, but hopefully maybe catch or attract a few big roach with those loose feed casters that I'm putting out there. But there seems to be, it's a small fish, this one, seems to be more bites in close, definitely. But just swing this. Oh, I don't think we'll count this one. It's a little tiny perch. I'm not even going to put that in the net. Oh well, that's the smallest fish I've had today. I'm going to slip that, just drop him straight back in the water. A little perch, got to look in. But you see, on this short line, you can be in and out quicker. I'm just looking for a run of fish. Sometimes you can feed, say you can lose feed for an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours before you get a response. You don't always expect an immediate response from fish, particularly when it's cold like this. Just doesn't happen. But as long as I'm right over that bait, then I can expect to catch fish fairly quickly. Now really, considering the conditions, it's been a great day's winter fishing. Catching skimmers on that long line at 13 metres, 2 pinkies on the hook just over depth, and then on that closer line, skimmers and roach. But really, it's been non-stop action on it. I didn't expect it to be that good. Let's have a look and see what I've caught. I love to start with a big fish. I've been here for a little while. I've probably been fishing for about an hour, catching some small roach. I've had one good roach, nice rudd, 1 or 2 small fish. I'm fishing on the pole today, 11 metres. The fishery, this lake is called Rook Lake, and the fishery is Rookery Waters, and it's a commercial water, match water, lovely fishing. But I'm into a good fishing. I don't no idea what it is. Might be a carp, might be a skimmer. So really, I'm fishing for everything today. Really strong wind, so I'm using the heaviest float so I can pick up the tow and make sure the bait goes through the right way, the right direction. Lovely soft elastic. This is one of my favourites. It's a 1 millimetre hybrid elastic. Hybrid elastics are really much softer than normal elastics. Lovely. What this is, might be a skimmer this. I don't know what it was. Lovely, but it took I just switched to cast, a single caster on the bottom, and it went straight away. It's just, I'm going to unship one more section down, get the fish in the net. Lots of like a real, this is a real mixed fishery. It's got a bit of everything in it. Yeah, it's a lovely skimmer. Great fish, probably, yeah, my biggest fish so far. So I'm here with Simon today. Simon Smith he's a member of the local hot rods team. Let me show you that fish. That is in lovely condition, isn't it? Beautiful fish. Perfect. I love good skimmers. So Simon's going to fish the tip. I'm on the pole and I'm just fishing for everything. I've cupped in, I'm fishing at 11.5 metres, so I've cupped in balls of ground bait on the line I hooked that skimmer on, with casters and pinkies in. And then I've got another line where I'm just loose feeding a little bit, cupped a bit of raw bait in, and as I say, I'm just fishing for everything.
Neither me or Bob have fished the lake, and just over a week ago now it was frozen solid, so it's just a case of sort of taking it slowly and building the pegs up, really. I managed to sneak a couple of early skimmers, and I said plenty of bites, but I said lots of roach, rudd. I've had a crucian. So for the last 3 months we've been fishing on the drains and local rivers in the East Midlands Winter League. I fish for Browning Hot Rods, a local team to the area. We do pretty well overall in nationals and the big competitions. We put a lot of time, a lot of effort in, with the support of Browning as our main sponsor, and obviously Bob being the face behind Browning as well, so it's nice to have a day with him and fish different tactics and see who can get a few fish. In these windy conditions, the short feeder can be better for the stamp fish, for the skimmers, the bigger roach, because you can present a static bait in a nice tight area. Like I said, we're getting bites most puttings now. Saying that, Bob's just hooked a good fish, so it's just a case of getting into a rhythm, putting the feeder down the same hole, building your peg up, and like I said, hopefully them skimmers will move in, and there we go, talk that one up. It's got to be a skimmer, hopefully, anyway. These Silverlight rods are just absolutely superb for this style of fishing. You can see, it's probably a pound skimmer, and you know, I'm fishing 011 fluoro carbon hook length today, and it's not going to break. It's such a nice soft rod in the top, but it's got the power lower down to punch the feeder out if you need to. And like I said, on a windy day like today, you know, I'm fishing 30 gram feeder. Normally, without the wind, 15 gram would be more than enough, so it enables me to hit the same spot every time. There we go, nice little skimmer. Obviously, being a commercial, the fishery rules state no braid and running rigs. So as I mentioned earlier, we are using a few new items from Browning. Uni reel line there, can't fault it at all. It sinks well, it's absorbent resistant. At this distance, you don't necessarily need braid, even on a venue where you can use braid, because if you're not fishing that far out, and the bites, they're magnified. You don't lose fish as much on mono as you do braid. So I'm more than happy using up to probably 20 metres. I'll happily use mono. And like I said, very impressed with this. Absolutely great line.
I'm really enjoying this. But I don't know what I'm going to catch next. Sometimes it can be an ounce roach. Sometimes a big rudder. I don't know what, honestly don't know what this fish, I've given up guessing what the fish is going to be. But it's quite big. And that elastic is unbelievably good for smallish hook, light lines. You just don't lose as many fish. Don't bump any fish. This one's fighting quite hard at. I'm not trying to guess what it is. Can't get. One thing's for sure, I've not got his head up yet. He's fighting like a crucian carp, but I can't expect crucians to feed in this weather. I don't know.
What have we got now, Bob?
I don't know. It maybe it's. I don't know. Maybe a small carp. It's not that big a fish. Not as big as I thought. But this sort of fighting quite hard. Is it a tench? I don't know what it is. That's the beauty of casting. You never know what you're going to catch. I think it's a small carp. Yeah, it's a small carp. Little F1 feeding on that ground bait. So small seal. Because I've got light gear on, get just a lovely fight, and that's probably I'll unhook it first. Hook brilliantly again, just perfectly. Let me just, I can show that to camera. But it doesn't matter what size fish you catch on, even on light gear. And that is just a beautiful F1. Once again, lovely condition. All these fish are gorgeous. Yeah, fight, really scrap, but more fun on light gear, isn't it?
From the off, I've been putting micro pellet in and dead red maggot. We're getting a lot of roach, rudd intercepting the bait. You know, I need to sort of try and get some bigger fish there and hold them there. So just chop some worm up, just some dendrobina worm. I'm going to fish, just put some worm through the feeder and just see, what difference it makes. Hopefully we'll get a few skimmers. Put a small worm head on the hook. Haven't got to change anything, same rig, so literally bit of chop worm, put a few casters in as well, just a few. Bob's catching pretty well on caster at the moment, so let's give it a go. It's a bit of worm. Just tip that with a pinky. So just want to try and get some better fish, and bigger fish do like that chop worm, so let's just. So obviously we've just put that chop worm through the feeder. Literally, tip's gone. We're into a better fish. Hopefully a skimmer. It just shows you just small changes can make such a big difference. I've been putting dead maggot and micro through, but it might not be what they want today. So let's just see what we've got here. See the action of that rod. It's absolutely superb. Yeah, it's a nice skimmer. Another skimmer, Bob.
Oh, well done.
Just gone on the worm.
Yeah, that'll eliminate them smaller fish. You can stick with that now. Sometimes just a bait change is all you need.
Literally, Bob, it was change of bait. Within a minute, the tip's gone round. Skimmer.
Yeah, like me, just swapping the caster, producing a few better fish.
There we go. Lovely skimmer. Are you getting regular bites, Bob, or?
I'm catching, but I'm on caster, so I'm trying to catch better fish.
It's just very hard with that toe, though, isn't it? I think.
No, it's okay. It's just sort of tripping back nicely against the wind.
So obviously, Bob's fishing the long pole. I think the feeder for these better fish should be the better tactic today. I've got 3 skimmers, that's 4 skimmers now. Bob's getting some good roach though on the caster, but it's very difficult to present a still bait. This wind makes it very hard on the pole. The wind's blowing this way, but the bottom of the lake's going this way because it's hitting the far bank and coming back round. So the pole, it's you will catch on it, but it's very difficult. Oh, there we go, another fish on the feeder. That wind is getting stronger as well, so you know it's getting harder for bobbers. You know, even holding a pole 11, 13 metres is hard. It's hard work in this wind. There we go. What have we got here? Oh, it's a rudd. Nice rudd. There we go. Nice little rudd there in the lip.
The skimmer.
Rudd, Bob.
Bigger fish though. I'm really trying to catch everything today. But a switch to caster has brought some bigger fish, but I'm still catching small fish as well on it. This is a little roach. So I'm really looking for lots of action. Let's run through what I'm doing. I'm fishing my, it's a bit windy today, you might have already seen it. So I'm fishing my Browning Silverlight Plus pole at 11.5 metres. It's a lovely slim stiff pole, so perfect for, and I've set my stall out to try and catch everything, roach, skimmers, carp if there are any carp in here, but I've already had a couple of good skimmers. Now the water's moving quite a bit today. When you get wind on the water like this, the top surface will be going with the wind, but down on the bottom where the fish are, that will be going back the other way, and that's the way that you have to fish. So I've put quite a heavy float on 1.5 grams with the weight is down, so that picks up the tow and puts the bait through at the right way for the fish. I love these hybrid elastics, and this one is a 1 mil. It's so beautiful. Hybrid elastic is so soft. I'm hardly pulling on that, look, just out, which you need for skimmers. I'm only using an 18 hook, so you need, when you're on a small hook, you need to fish fairly fine elastic. Main line's 0.14. I'm using a Browning rig line. That's a high-tech line which doesn't stretch at all. The hook length's 0.11 fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon because the fish can't see it. Doesn't, when you're fishing a really coloured water, not so critical, but in clear water, anywhere, if you're fishing in clear water, then use a fluorocarbon hook length. Never ever use fluorocarbon for mainline because you can't slide shot along it. If you put shot on it and try and move it, just tears. And I'm trying to catch on caster, so I'm looking for an odd big fish. There are small fish there as well. Got some beautiful casters from our local shop this morning. Alex has got a shop here on site. So I'm just a single caster, and I'm half burying that caster like that, just half burying that caster on the hook. 3 number 10 droppers on the rig. I've got the Olivet fairly well up, and I'm putting about, say, 3 inches of line on the bottom because it's moving, it's towing. I'm dropping it in and then letting it run back with the wind. I wasn't really sure what sort of fish I'm going to catch and how to feed them, so I've fed one line with ground bait, which I was potting in, with casters and pinkies in, and another line I've just loose fed it. I've potted in a few loose casters and maggots, and then I keep loose feeding a few casters as well over the top. As always on these fisheries, it's usually, particularly in winter, it's usually a sort of a slow start, and then you just build up your peg through the day. As I say, I'm just fishing for everything. So I've had skimmers, I've had 1 or 2 nice roach. Conditions are quite tough, but I can usually manage to catch 1 or 2 fish. Could just about lift this one. This is a nice roach, but I'll just about swing that one in. I'm only on a smallish hook, so I'll just swing that in. And that elastic really stretches even on these small fish, but it just stops you bumping. When you're fishing on all these venues, you have to use a barbless hook, and on a barbless hook, a really soft elastic, that's the one I'm using today, there's about 6 metres there, so you do about 3 rigs. Oh, Simon's in again. He's catching, now he's changed his bait, he's catching slightly better fish.
Big roach.
Oh, well done. We decided that Simon would fish the feeder today and I would fish the pole. But if I had a choice, I think I would be, on a day like today, I think I'd rather be on feeder. Pole's always tough when it's like this. But I'm just trying to sort out those slightly better fish. I'm not sure really yet. I've had fish on both lines. I've had fish on the line. Both lines are at 11.5 metres. I've just fed one at an angle. One line straight in front of me with ground bait and the other line at an angle with loose feed. And I've had fish on both lines, so I haven't really sorted it yet. The only thing I thought was that perhaps a ground bait would attract smaller fish. Usually, what happens is that once the bigger fish like skimmers or carp move in, they usually push the smaller fish out. So I'm just over depth, 3 inches, which is about 6 or 7 centimetres. Laying the float in and then letting the bait just drag back. So I'm getting natural movement from the water, not trying to hold it still. It's not racing through, it's just tripping back nicely. And just letting it trip back against the wind. Plenty of bites, loads of bites. No shortage of bites, but sometimes they're small fish.
Bob.
Oh, lovely, well done. On worm.
Wormhead.
Well done. Stick to that.
So, my setup for today. Rod wise, brown and silver light, Jen's Cosmic 11'6" feeder. 011 fluorocarbon hook length today. No problems at all. I'm not going to get broke up. Reel, trusty Black Viper. Great reel. The line lay is absolutely superb. Loads of cranking power. It's got the worm shaft in there. Been using them for 2 seasons now. Absolutely faultless. Uni reel line, 0.17. You know, it's 4.5 pound. I'm not fishing for carp. You know, I don't need any heavier. The thinner the main line, the less drag you're going to have. So for me, 0.17, absolutely great. It sinks like a stone. It's got a little bit of stretch in there. Going down to the rig itself, so on a commercial, well, most commercial fisheries, you know, free running feeders and barbless hooks. So this is the most simplest rig, but I've used it all day, you know, 3.5 hours today, not one tangle yet. So just a free running feeder on your main line, thread that onto your line, then just put a rubber stop onto my main line, twisted boom, pull the stop back down, then it's just a case of loop to loop for the hook length. I mean, I'm using quite a short hook length because, you know, there's a lot of roach and rudd out there. You know, if I fish too long a hook length, I'm going to miss too many bites. So, you know, I'm probably got 2 foot hook length there, absolutely perfect, down to a size 16 barbless hook. You know, it's a very simple setup, but it's so important. You know, you don't want tangles, you don't need to overcomplicate the rig. This rig is absolutely perfect. I'll leave a slightly longer tag on there as well on the hook length. Don't ask me why, but you seem to get less spin ups. You know, I'm fishing double maggot. I haven't had a spin up yet all day. Obviously I'm using fluorocarbon as well, which is stiffer, so that helps with spin ups. Yeah, but you know, for what reason I don't know, but it was something somebody showed me a few years back, and it definitely does work. So let's go down to, you know, filling the feeder and casting the feeder out. So hook bait, double maggot, double pinky, bits of worm. You know, I'm varying the baits. I'm catching on, at the moment I'm catching well on double maggot. So dead maggot I'm using today on the hook. And then with a feeder, the ground bait, I did say earlier, you know, you want a slightly over dampened ground bait. You don't want the feeder, you know, we've got eight foot of water there. We don't want the feeder going through the water, releasing the bait on the way down, because, you know, we're going to attract a lot of small fish into the peg, and we're trying to catch, you know, the better stamp fish, which are on the bottom. So by using a slightly damper ground bait, you know, you can add your particles to the feeder and get them to the bottom. Feeder wise, the mini big pit feeders by Browning, absolutely superb for commercial style silver fishing. They've got a nice flat lead on the bottom. They hold the bottom well. You know, they're pretty much faultless. I mean, this feeder I've been using all day today in 20, what we got on here, 25 grams, absolutely bang on. You know, I've got them 15, 20 and 25, you know, just depending on what you need to set your tip. You know, just play around. You'll soon see when it's right, because you won't get the pull round. You know, you can tighten up to your feeder, put a slight bend into your tip, and you know you're on the right feeder then. So let's put a few micros in, a little bit of dead maggot. We started putting a little bit of worm through now, so let's fill the feeder. Just plug the feeder in the middle, nip it in there. Not over tight, because obviously if you put it in there too tight, it's not going to come out. It's just going to be stuck there. But I'm confident when that gets to the bottom, it's going to release that feed, and you're fishing straight away. And like I said, hopefully a few bigger fish. So let's cast out. Like I said earlier, we've got a far bank marker there. The wind's getting even stronger, so we're punching the feeder. With the rod being soft at the top but stiffer lower down, we can punch the feeder out. So all we're doing, about a metre of line between the feeder and the tip. We're looking at our marker, we're just going over our left shoulder, punching the feeder out, hitting the clip. Straight away, I'm on a tight line, so I'm feeling that feeder down to the bottom. There we go. A slight bend in the tip, put the rod on the rest. On a day like today, with the wind being as strong as it is, it's a personal thing. I like to have my bottom eye just on the surface of the water. The slight bend there, any drop backs I'll see. But you know, the bites have been exceptionally good today. You know what I mean? On mono, and they're still pulling the tip right round them better skimmers. Wind's dropped a little bit.
You are joking. You come and try the pole if you think it's dropped. You still getting bites, Simon?
No, definitely slowed down.
Have you tried caster on the hook yet?
I've tried wormhead, but not caster.
Try caster. Just see if it makes a difference. Although you haven't put many in, have you?
No, I've not put a lot of caster in. I put micro pellets and dead maggot mostly, and I've now put a bit of worm through, but I thought worm was the answer. I had a skimmer straight away. Yeah. And then nothing since, so.
The problem might be too many. I'm just catching quite big fish now. The problem might be that you just, the ground bait may be attracting too many little fish, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm getting a lot of bites instantly. I mean, I'm using a wet ground bait, so it gets, heavy ground bait, but
I'm just putting quite a few casters in my balls of ground bait now. I'm just starting to catch one or two better fish now.
On the caster still?
Yeah, caster's definitely the best bait. Oh, do you know what? It's a big roach. Lovely roach, you know, really nice one. It's a big fish, isn't it? No, it's a
big rudd?
Really big rudd. Beautiful fish. Probably about 12 ounces. Just barely hooked. Unbelievable. Lucky I didn't lose that, but it just shows you that caster is just a bait for catching quality fish.
Oh, one more.
Yeah, another fish. I mean, it's been interesting today. I've had fish all different sizes.
Yeah,
But when last week there was 3 inches of ice on here, and now we're a week later we're catching fish. What's this?
I think we sometimes expect too much, don't we? You know,
I suppose we do, but
we are spoiled in the winter fishing on the drains and the rivers, catching big nets of fish. But no, like I said,
so I've just switched to maggot, and they are small, still nice stamped fish.
Lovely.
But
no, it's like I said,
I think we can finish on that fish and just summarise our day. I mean, I've fished at 11.5 metres on the pole, on the bottom, with maggot and caster, cupping in ground bait, loose feeding, and catching bits and pieces. And you've been a bit further on the feeder, haven't you?
So I've been 18 metres out on that feeder. But I've had plenty of bites, Bob. But like I said, lots of small fish today we're feeding. Not so many. I mean, I've had 4 or 5 skimmers. Sort of up to a pound and. Probably pound and a half.
That's good.
Yeah, I've had
good winter fishing.
Yeah, like I said, we've had bites all day, haven't we? Really, but the conditions, obviously.
Well, I'm guessing that the fish also, as it was really cold last week, they'll have been shoaled up somewhere. Perhaps where it's a little bit deeper in the lake. But I mean, I even had that one F1, which I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, so. I managed one of the F1s as well, so that was nice to sort of finish on. But like I said, it's definitely a good venue for this time of year. Like I said, there's quite a few pleasure anglers on here, and they obviously just want to come out and get a few bites while in this cold weather. So
yeah, no, a great day. We've both had reasonable number of fish. It's been twice as hard for me on this pole as you sitting on that lovely 11-foot rod.
Well, yeah, I think I made the.
I don't know how you managed to work that.
Oh, I did look at the
but
forecast.
A great day and like a pleasure fishing with you.
No,
really
great to have a day with you, Bob.
Good.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Simon.